I'm quite happy with that. And what we can do now is loosely fit our top end on. And what I'm doing is I'm changing this bearing, the small end bearing, changing that one to a new one. New crank, new bearings, why use the old one? So let me fish out one of the racing type ones which I've got up here. I fit anyway, so stick that in there. And we need to take these, push that away a bit, take these bolts off. Nuts even. Nuts, washers, which if you remember it didn't have any on. Again, fantastic whoever built the engine. Two. And what I'll probably do tonight, because I want the gasket to seal, I'll put the gasket on, which should be over here. Put safe. I need a bigger back cave. What we need to do, what we need to do is to seal that up. Which one am I going to use? In fact, I'm going to use the thinner one. We'll get a bit more compression. So I need the blue Hylamar again. And we'll just put it around on both sides on the gasket. And again, don't swamp it. You only need enough to seal. Make sure you go around all the holes. Just use your fingers like so. Hopefully you can see that to seal it. And then we just need to stick that in place. That's a good gasket, isn't it? So I won't be using that gasket because it's decided to destroy itself. So what I'll probably end up doing is putting a GT type gasket on the head. So again, I've just put in the Hylamar on. Spread it with your fingers, like so, both sides. That's it. Stick it on. Like so. And then we just need the clean up the gloves. In fact, I'm going to change the gloves, throw them. I've got sealer on them. That's one on. Just that I don't want the sealer going everywhere. I don't want it. And if you remember the the wrist pin, as it's called, or or most people call them a wrist pin, or just put the glove on. Was very, very tight on that piston that came out, so I'm going to have to warm up the piston itself to get the pin in. Gudgeon pin, wrist pin, whatever you want to call it. Right, so we'll just need to push this down while clearing the crankshaft basically. So once I get here, push that past all the way up. And just make sure it mates on there, so it's sat there. And we're going to get our piston barrel, and again, before I use anything, get everything clean. So although it's been sat there with penetrating oil on it, it doesn't hurt to clean it all. Let's get that out of the way. If you remember, we got rid of all the rust off of this by leaving it in the solution. I think that was about part 8. Making sure all the transfer ports are clean. I believe this engine was running a 22mm carb, which I didn't get with the bike, but I'll chase up the previous owner and see if he knows where it is. So I'm just going to clean the piston like so. I did decoke it. I didn't polish it, I just cleaned it up basically, and I haven't adjusted any of the bolt timings on this. I've been assured it run really well. So what I'm going to do now is try not to catch it alight, but warm up the piston. So basically that gudgeon pin needs a wipe as well. That's the gudgeon pin out of the piston. That one. I've got some wire wool to give it a quick clean. It was, to me, it was very, very tight. And again, I'll just use some brake cleaner on it. And dry it off. And we're looking at the piston will have an arrow on it. I don't know if you can see that, the arrow's there on that. Downwards. 61.97. And I think it's a mile, by the markings on it, it looks like a mile. M-A-R-L-E piston. So what I tend to do is I drive the pin from here inside that way. So I'm just going to warm up the piston. You don't have to go too mad on this. Right, so I've got eventually enough heat in there for it to slide in. Right, pane, and I'm going to be using clips. Those spring clips. Basically put them, piston still belting hot, but scrunch them in. Wow, that's bloody hot. and again stick them at the bottom. They're in. I've just got to do the other side now. I'll turn the engine towards me. One in one side and pinch it. No, thought it was in. Doesn't help that I can just about touch the piston with the heat on it. Just turn it round to the bottom, and that one's in. Yeah. What I do is just try and pull them out. They're in. So turn our piston back to the bottom dead centre. And as I said, we've got our arrow down. Right. Spray some oil in the barrel. We can slide her on. So inlet on the top, exhaust on the bottom, as you probably know. So just put them on the studs. I think we're in. There we go. So let's just give the crank a turn, get the piston up and down the barrel. There we go. I don't know why it seems so hard to push home. That is in. Top. That's top dead centre. Right, so what I want to do now is just stick a gasket on the top and stick the head on. I don't know why it's catching, because none of them studs, they all appear to be in line. There we go, caught on my glove now. And again, I think it's because it's threaded. still on the thread. That's it. Right, I'm just going to do up the head, only because, like I said, I want the bottom gasket to seal. So I need to find what I've done with the head. Right, so we're going to do a quick timing. Basically what you want to do is just rotate this around. Bear in mind this is a new flywheel to this engine anyway. So the way I do it, you can put a dial gauge on here, but I prefer to use your hand. Basically what the piston does is it comes in, it's got a dead spot and then back again. So what you're looking for is just where that dead spot is, which is there, and it actually is on that mark. So I should have a pen somewhere on here, there. A mark here. Let's turn that round a bit more so I can see what I'm doing. So if you can see where the arrow is there, just mark the arrow, and that mark there is top dead center. So what we need to do is just take off the flywheel now. I haven't put the stator plate on because you don't need it on. What you've got is you've got two windows here. If I put a mark on there, so that's your firing point on there, and that corresponds to that cut out there, the white line, and that's your firing point. So you don't need this in situ. What we do need though is the degree wheel. If you think the engine spins that way, so before top dead center is that way, so we need to find 17 degrees before that mark, and then that will correspond to that. You can put the stator plate in, it's, you know, it's up to you whichever way you do it, but you don't need to. You can actually mark inside there where the firing point is. We'll do it the old way because people will criticise basically not doing it right, and I just need to find out my puller tool. So I'm just going to cut away and get that flywheel puller in. Like so. And all we've got to do is tighten that bolt and it will just pull it off, because it's not really been tightened up. There you go. I was going to say it won't take a lot to pull it off. So we need our bolt and our washer. I'll give that a wipe in a minute so we can read it properly. So I've got to take out the extractor again. We've got to do work on this stator plate yet, because I'll show you what to do, but what you're basically going to be doing is floating the earth. So where it's got one yellow, we'll have two yellows, and they'll go into our full wave rectification that we're going to do upgrade on this engine. So I'm just giving that a wipe because it is a bit dusty, and then we'll stick it on like so. Stick on the washer. And just tighten that up in place to our mark, because that's our top dead center mark that we made on there. Yeah, that's perfect. So the easiest way to do this is just count 10, 15, 16, 17. So it's the extremity mark there. That's the firing point on this engine. That one there. because it's basically 360 degrees, it can't move. We've got static ignition anyway, so we're not floating the ignition. I'm doing the wrong bloody way, I'm tightening it. There we go. So we don't need our degree wheel no more, that can go back. And just for the sake of clarity, I will pick up that again. I'll stick that I don't want the washer. Just have to bear in mind with me that this is not staying how it is. Like I say, the flywheel will come off again. But like I say, for clarity, we'll do it the old way, which is just stick your stator in situ. I can see a few marks. It's weird how you spot things when you start to do stuff, so life, I suppose. I'll just take out our 3 studs on here, bolts, not studs. That's number 2. Screwdriver bit, it's going to be quicker. And then we'll offer up our stator plate. The cables through the hole. These are very, very long cables. Something like that. Just tighten up our nuts, bolts, even nuts, bolts, whatever. You don't need them ultra tight at the moment. And there should be the one that holds the cable clamp in here, which it is. I'll stick that one in there. Had I already modified this stator, it could have gone on and been left on, but that's for another video basically. So I'll stick that on there. So they just hang tight basically, because it's not been nipped up yet. So get the cables out of the way, and then we'll stick our flywheel back on again. Draft key is there. It should slide over the keyway. I'll get it in line somewhere around there. Why are these things always harder when you've got a camera on? There we go. So that rotates freely. I mean, we can leave that without being bolted up anyway, because we know we've got our firing point, which is there, and that K2 is absolutely nowhere where that firing point is. Hope you can see that. The K2's up here. So we are on the stator plate. We stick that as 0. And then just stick on the the degree wheel. Basically it's a circle, so it's 360 degrees. Just do that up so it's slightly tight, just holding in place like so. And what we want to do is count 17 degrees, so we've got 10, 11, 12, 13. It's just before that mark. So I've got a pen that will mark that just there. And what we're looking for basically is, because this is rotating around, it takes time for the spark or the actual signal to make the spark. It takes a certain amount of time, milliseconds or whatever, to travel the distance to the spark plug and ignite the fuel mixture. So that's why you do it before top dead center, so that it actually, on the compression stroke, you've got the ignition pushing the piston back. If it was after, the piston would already be down, so it would like be counteracting itself. So right, we've got our mark just there. So what we need to do now is stick on our flywheel again. And again, we don't really need the nut on, because it's just going on and off. So get that lined up like so. That's it, it's in. So we find our top dead center mark, and then we move that way. So that's just too far. So that needs coming back about 3 degrees. So stick our puller tool again, and I probably should be able to just pull it off, yeah. So what we need to do now is move our stator plate just a tad. Still too tight. That's probably spot on, if not a little bit past where it needs to be. This is why I just prefer to do the way I do it normally, which is find your top dead center, find your trigger point, mark up where on your stator plate basically where it goes, and you can line this up afterwards a lot easier. So anyway, right, flywheel back on again. I keep getting dust in here. I'll turn it round so that the keyway lines up. Slider on. There we go, it's going. There we go, we're on. So there's our firing point, and I don't know if you can see, but that is spot on. The white firing line is spot on to there. It's actually there. No, it's not, it's slightly up, so I still need to turn it some more. And this is why I don't like this method, because you are messing around. But it's the tried and trusted method that scooterists have been using for years. We'll pull that off again. And it just needs moving a tad more than what we've got it. I mean a tad as well. That will do. Because this is all new stuff, there's no marks on it. If you were reusing your original stuff, it would all have the marks where it's been tightened in. So let's put our flywheel back on again, and I'm expecting that to be 99.9% spot on. So our flywheel is still round that way, straight on. Let's give it a 12. So there's our firing point, and that's spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on. And there's our top dead center. So as you can see, when it's taken that amount of degrees from there to there for that basically to ignite. So that's the firing point, that's top dead center, just there. That's quite a way degrees wise, isn't it? And then that piston now is going down. That's perfect. So firing point, dead in line. Yep, spot on. Right, that's how you time the engine. What I forgot to mention was as well, now you can mark where the stator plate sits on the mag housing. So next time when we come to put it together, we ain't got a lot of work to do because we've already timed this engine. And what it means is the cylinder head can go on and be torqued. Right. So what I suggest you do is get a straight edge like such and just go from there, the middle of that, and keep it on the middle and just mark there. Get a screwdriver if you want and just put a mark into that. And what we can also do as well is use our pen so we know now that that's our firing point. See that? Not the white, it's in between the white line and the black line, basically there where I've got the straight edge pushed in. So that's our firing point. So stator plate now can come off, we don't need that in situ anymore. We can rotate the I don't know if I've told you before, but if you do take the stator plate off, stick it back into the flywheel. I've never known them demagnetise, but basically it's probably good practice. Somebody, you know, in the old days they probably used to demagnetise, but the Scooters India flywheels are as good as anything out there. And unlike some of the very expensive ignitions, we don't need the adjustable ignition anyway, but in comparison to, I'm not naming them, but to some of these dear ones that you buy, and they're only variations on the Scooters India one anyway. So I'm just sticking that back in and leave that safe. So that's going to be put there safe. So I've got work to do on that stator yet. So we'll stick our washer back on and our nut so we can't lose them, and stick our bolts back in again. And again, we don't need to tighten these in, just enough so they don't fall out. That'll do. And again, this is all original ironware. Just slightly cleaned up. Not that you ever see it, but if these are pretty sealed, they normally are quite good at keeping all the dust and the dirt out. You've got a dust cap that goes over there, which I've bought new.